For 12 suns and moons I've traveled by carriage through these vast windswept plains. Endless swaths of wild grasses interspersed with shallow pools of muddied rainwater. The region is nothing short of paradise for any grazing animal. I have had no issue keeping my horses fed during my time here. Finding a village to stock up on supplies has proved more of a hassle. But last night was different, and I find my hands tremble anew as I recount my experience. I had not heard it approach. I felt it. The ground rumbled and quaked with each step, panicking my horses. As I steadied them, the colossal outline of a monster approached from the dark. A wide, hulking beast of fat and muscle. The creature's knotted hide draped heavily over its back and arms. Thick clumps of fur, caked with mud and grime, secreted a foul odor. Had we been downwind, I would have detected the creature a mile before it had the opportunity to surprise me. But fate would not deem me so fortunate, and before me stands a reeking Goliath. The beast and I locked eyes. The face was humanoid, long and thin-lipped, with pudgy jowls and beady, piercing eyes. It stood nearly 3 men tall. Its posture was hunched, and its massive, distended stomach hung low to the ground. The monster's chest heaved, producing a core-shaking grumble as it walked on its knuckles, circling my position and gazing blankly at the carriage and its contents. The behemoth extended a massive arm outwards, brutishly nudging my carriage, nearly toppling it. It eyed my horses greedily, saliva streaming down its multiple chins. But it was at this moment the creature's attention was diverted elsewhere. The howl of a wolf and the stirring of a herd of nearby bison piqued its interest. Slowly, it wandered off, knuckle-walking deep into the tall grass towards the sound of the bellowing. As quickly as the beast emerged, it vanished. I was left shaken by the encounter, but otherwise, in one piece. What you just heard was a recount of a near-disastrous encounter with one of the many giant creatures in my homebrew world, Therenor. Hello everybody, my name is Crazy K, and for today's video we're going to take a look at hill giants and how we decided to redesign them. But before we do that, we have to talk about the world that this campaign takes place in. It's focused around the rise of small folk in an ancient primordial world made for giants. And since my wonderful partner is such a fantastic artist and has been making tons of artwork for our game, I've been wanting to put videos together to talk about it. So sit back, relax, and prepare to listen to me lore dump about the giant ancient world of Therenor. The realm of Therenor is gargantuan. Crafted by some unknown demiurge thousands and thousands of years ago, it's large even by giant standards. A realm where the mountain peaks pierce the clouds upwards to the heavens, endless valleys roll onwards like terrestrial seas, and the whole of a small folk city can rest under the canopy of a single tree. Therenor is the manifestation of pure, untamed wilderness. Or so it was. You see, for the longest time, the only sentient beings which inhabited Therenor were the giants. Huge, towering creatures which have seemingly sprung from the soil on a whim, claiming dominion over Therenor's most extreme climates. They were reclusive, but thrived in their environments, and have done so for countless millennia. But of course, all good things come to an end. Over the millennia, a small yet very resilient group of creatures, collectively known as small folk, have begun establishing themselves across the realm. Their sudden exponential rise into this world has brought unwanted turbulence. Giant kind has begun to feel smothered by the increasing presence of small folk, who themselves feel threatened by the potential destruction that giants are capable of. Neither side has chosen to act, in fear of retaliation from the other. This uneasy stalemate may soon reach its breaking point, however, with the introduction of a new and sinister threat to Therenor. So let's talk hill giants. In Therenor there exists a place called the Great Expanse. Hundreds of miles of rolling plains ripe with fertile soil. The Expanse is untamed and wild, with little to shelter one from the infrequent yet torrential rainstorms local to this area. Migratory creatures call this place their home. Animals like bison, wild horses, wolves, and large flightless birds akin to emus. The biggest beast that roams these lands, however, is the hill giant. massive ape-like quadrupeds with shaggy, thick hides that hang from their back and arms. They are opportunistic scavengers, traveling solo or sometimes in mated pairs, and they will happily devour just about anything. They mindlessly scavenge the expanse in search for their next meal, of which they need to eat hundreds of pounds a day. Be it the abundance of tall grass that stretches across the expanse, a straggling herd animal too weak and slow to keep up with the pack, or an unfortunate farmer's yield of crops for the season. The frequent altercations between hill giants and farmers has been a growing issue among the smallfolk civilizations. More food can always be grown. Therenor's growing season is year-round, and even after numerous hill giants have scavenged their farms, farmers always have enough to bring back home to their family. The main issue arises when hill giants wander too close to the homes of farmers and peasants. And while they are naturally level-headed, borderline docile creatures, their massive size and careless nature inevitably causes destruction. When it came to designing the hill giants, there were two questions that I needed to ask myself. What part do hill giants play in this world, and how can we make them look like they really belong there? I thought the best place to start was by looking to the Forgotten Realms giants as a base, and seeing what aspects of them I wanted to keep and what I was planning on changing. Then I can really figure out their role in the World of Therenor. The Forgotten Realms giants are huge, gluttonous monsters of a vaguely humanoid shape, which either bully smaller creatures into providing them food, or eating them. They are fat, lazy savages with a below-average intelligence, and while some have proven themselves to be smarter than the average person, and neutral or even good-aligned, they are primarily not. I love them to bits, but the bipedal Forgotten Realms giants look kinda goofy when compared to the rest of the giant gang, and while they and their god Grolantor are often considered the black sheep or ugly ducklings of the giant breeds, I didn't want that for my giants to the extent the Realms does it. I did like the idea that hill giants were gluttons. This behavior ends up becoming closely tied to the plot when I pitched the campaign to my players last year. I'll go more into detail about this in another video, but for now we need to figure out what our hill giant's physique will look like. Naturally, a creature so large and fat would have some difficulty walking around upright in the expanse for days on end, so we went with a quadrupedal look. Some of the references we used were gorillas, orangutans, and even the tank from Left 4 Dead 2 at one point, to figure out how a being this size would carry itself. Massive back muscles and lengthy arms gave our giants a top-heavy, primitive look, which is perfect for the ancient hills. We continued with this ape-like appearance for the face, keeping it elongated and thin-lipped, but making sure to add jowls and fattened features, in addition to beady, glaring eyes. Now that the general shape of the giant was decided on, the next step in our design process was whether the giants clothed themselves or not. If they did, how would their clothes look? And if not, how are we going to stop our adventurers from seeing way too much of our giants? We decided the best way to solve this would be by giving them some form of a pelt. This also worked to better incorporate them as creatures of the expanse. Their thick, shaggy hides acted as a barrier to shield them from the harsh sun, unforgiving winds, and oppressive rainfall of the region. We took a look at some popular herding animals for inspiration for their hides. Bisons, yaks, highland cows, and we really enjoyed the matted, knotty look yak fur can get when overgrown, so we went with that. We also played around with different giant hide colors. I liked the idea that they could come in a range of shades, from platinum blonde to a ruddy, oaky brown or black. While we were workshopping the looks of the giants, my partner and I were discussing their intelligence and their temperament. Hill giants, by far, were going to be the most frequently encountered of the giant breeds in this world. Should our hill giants be good or evil? Do we give them human or greater intelligence, or do we follow in the footsteps of the Forgotten Realms and make them below average? In the end, we decided to do a different blend of things, and we made our hill giants as simple as the beasts they are surrounded by. A hill giant's primary concern in life is the source of its next meal. Past this point, they use little, if any, brain power, and cannot discern right from wrong. They do not speak, but can understand giant speech, a sacred universal language imparted on all giant kin. Your average hill giant has intelligence roughly equal to that of a goat or a horse. But on very rare occasions, a hill giant is born with the potential for much greater knowledge. Often smaller in size compared to the other giants, they quickly become popular among their kin, who have just enough brains to realize following the smart giant around leads to steadier supplies of food. These giants have become ambassadors and navigators for their herds, which now grow to sizes of 8 or more individuals. They've learned to bark and grunt simple commands in their ancient giant tongue, which their herd follows devotedly. They go on to live migratory lifestyles, following food sources and remembering the locations of riverbanks, watering holes, and plots of farmland which they routinely visit. Over the thousands of years of intelligent giant births, the beginnings of a culture have started to develop, unique to each herd. In the rare chance two herds collide, the smartest of the groups will gather to share information, trade trinkets, and perform nonsensical rituals. To mitigate the number of hill giant encounters with small folk, farmers have resorted to keeping numerous plots of farmland upwards of half a day's travel from their villages, in the hopes that hill giants will simply forage from them and leave. Villages in the Expanse have also begun to utilize decoy houses, hollow, empty frames of buildings that mimic the ones found closer to town. These buildings are placed a considerable distance from the real homes in all directions, in the hopes that passing giants search them and learn to not associate them with free food. The efforts to keep hill giants at bay have worked wonderfully, allowing towns and cities to prosper. Extreme growth over the last few centuries has begun to put a strain on the giants, though, fragmenting their habitats into isolated chunks where their voracious appetites become their undoing. The hill giants, while a nuisance for farmers, play a crucial role in the ecology of the Expanse, acting as both scavengers and stewards. They consume the dying and diseased, halting the spread of plagues, and keeping the populations of grazing animals in check, preventing them from depleting natural resources. They may not be aware, but their existence keeps the delicate balance of the Expanse intact, and they embody the noble simplicity of this mighty region. I've had a lot of fun talking about this world-building project, and I definitely want to post more videos about it in the future. Keep an eye out for some more monster redesigns, lore dumps, or anything else involving the World of Therenor.